Now, Steve, the weather is always good in Los Angeles, but the recruiting right now might arguably be even better when you talk about what's going on at USC. The number one class right now in 2026. They've been on fire. Who could be next for the Trojans?
Well, let's talk about the big week that they just had, though. They just landed four-star offensive lineman Usun Tafa out of Corner Canyon in Utah. They beat Washington, Utah, and Texas A&M, among others. For him, 6'5", 290 pounds. Offensive line remains a point of emphasis for the Trojans. I think that's really where we've seen Lincoln Riley and company improve this program. And I think it's going to really show its head this fall around the point of attack, where they have a really good season up front and they want to keep it rolling for years to come. They go out and land Tafa to add to the class. And then they also added coveted four-star receiver Trent Mosley. They beat Notre Dame, Stanford, among others, for the Santa Margarita Catholic four-star wideout. They want more playmakers on the perimeter. Trent Mosley was a top target for them. It was a huge week for them as they add to the number one recruiting class in the country. They're trending for a couple more in the near future, in my opinion. I logged an on-3 RPM during the fall for four-star running back Deshaun Rideau out of Oaks Christian. I love that pick even more for the Trojans as he continues through his process. And a name that we need to talk about more with USC, JD, is the nation's number 7 defensive lineman, number 73 prospect overall in the on-3 rankings, Jamian Winfield out of Richardson, Texas. He's got a great relationship with Coach Eric Henderson and the staff. Lincoln Riley's always done a good job recruiting the Lone Star State. I got USC in the driver's seat for Jamian Winfield right now in his process. Some other guys that USC's battling for, Cody Green, the number 3 offensive tackle in the land. He's the number 9 prospect overall. He's the number 1 recruit in California. He's also committed to Oregon. He's going to take an official visit to USC on June 20th. I imagine he'll be there some other times as well. He talked about this 26 class helping USC compete for a national championship, and it would be amazing to be part of that. He talked about saying there's quite a bit of excitement around his teammates, how aggressive USC is recruiting California, and how much of a priority Matter Day is again. So things are picking up with Cody Green, who's also considering Texas. He is an elite point of attack player that USC is after. Talanoa Illy's a 4-star linebacker that's been a slobber knocker with Oregon on the trail. He's at Oregon this week, but USC, there's been some good buzz there. And then Davon Benjamin, he's the number 2 corner in the country. He visited USC last week. My on-3 RPM's on Oregon, but a source that spent time with him said things are moving in the right direction with the Trojans for Davon Benjamin.
Now, Steve, you mentioned a lot of names there that are from the state of California. When I look at this class right now, over half of these guys that are committed are from not just California, but Southern California. Is there a different buzz in your mind around that part of the state when it comes to how they perceive USC currently?
Well, I think a lot of these coaches that are on staff are going into their second year. You know, he really revamped his defensive staff. Lost his linebackers coach, Coach Entz, who is as good an assistant coach as anyone could have in the country. He's now the head coach at Fresno State. But he replaced him with Rex Ryan, who's Sincere Johnson, a 4-star linebacker from Ohio. He said he just calls Coach Ryan Rockstar because of his hair. But Sincere's going to take an official visit to USC this summer. USC's not the leader by any stretch, but they're in all the right recruiting battles because they're not afraid to go toe-to-toe for any prospect, no matter where they are, from coast to coast, whether that's Sincere Johnson or Messiah Hampton, an electric receiver from New York. Certainly Brandon Arrington's a priority, the number 1 corner per the on-3 industry rankings. He's got his official visit locked in. Mark Bowman, the number 2 tight end in the country, they're battling for him from in-state, from Matter Day. So they're in on a lot of elite guys. They got some evaluation guys high on their board. Elbert Hill is a corner from Ohio that I have them in the top 2 or 3 for right now in his process. The number 1 recruit out of the state of Ohio per the on-3 industry. So it's the excitement around the staff, having some momentum at the end of the year, winning your bowl game, some continuity amongst these coaches now going into the next season, and then Lincoln Riley's track record. I get annoyed when people act like Lincoln Riley's not one of the better coaches in college football. He only went to 3 playoff games at Oklahoma. His first year at USC, they damn near made the college football playoff when there was only 4 teams. If Caleb Williams doesn't get injured in that Utah game, where he still had a valiant effort and played hurt, they probably beat the Utes. The 2 Utes. I love my cousin Vinny references. But they probably beat Utah, and they're in the college football playoff for a 4th time. Now, I get it, man. If my aunt had, she'd be my uncle. So I get the ifs. But I'm just saying, my point is that USC has played meaningful football under Lincoln Riley as well, and I think they're on the verge of doing it again. And he's had a hell of a run as a head football coach, and there's a lot of momentum around the Trojans. He's put together a great staff. Defensive coordinator Deonton Lynn's as respected as they come. Coach Eric Henderson's as respected as they come, and Coach Belk and Coach Henson on the offensive line, and they just got Dennis Simmons and the receivers. Look, they got a great staff. Coach Riley does a great job recruiting. They got their NIL in order. They just hired Chad Bowden as their GM. He is as influential with recruits as anyone in his position. I mean, he is talking to their top recruits about why they should come. He has so much energy and gets these kids fired up, in addition to their relationships with on-field staff. So USC's humming. They got the number 1 class in the country. They're in on all the right recruiting battles, and they're going to be fun to follow in the spring and summer.